Ooh, welcome to the Rob Bro Show. I am Rob Ramo. I'm the host. You're the co-host. Co-host today by commenting on the starting line chat line. Great start, just like the Cowboys yesterday. You can comment on the starting line chat line. Let's get into it. The Dallas Cowboys suck again, as Carson said when he popped on the stream this afternoon, and then gave an evil giggle. Look. Was it a surprise? No. Did I pick the Cowboys? Yes. But I said last Friday it's the Green Bay Packers. They beat Mike McCarthy every time. I don't think Mike McCarthy's beaten them. There's a demon there that he cannot overcome. Jordan Love was the best quarterback over the last 8 weeks of the season. Off-platform throws. They were 9-8 though, and their defense was not good. And you got dog stomped.
You got waxed.
Mollywopped.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott was his worst self the first half. And then Dak did what he does the whole second half. And padded stats. This is what he did the entire Kellen Moore run. It's what he did when he won Rookie of the Year. The guy plays in empty moments and falls short against good teams in big moments. He can beat the hell out of a 4-12 Giants team. He can dominate Sam Howell. But you give him the third generational quarterback in a row for the Green Bay Packers, and he poops down his leg.
Yep.
Now,
yep.
That interception inside the 15 was pass interference, but also a lazy throw.
Still a bad throw.
Yeah. A lazy route. You allowed that to happen, Brandon Cooks. Now, could they have thrown a flag? Yes. Would it have been controversial? Sure. But you also just had two really stupid penalties on the first drive that gift wrapped a touchdown drive. I mean, this is Dallas Cowboys football. You won 16 in a row at Jerry World. And then you poop down your leg. Family show.
Yeah.
We talked about it last night as well on the Gambling Gauchos. You can listen to that on YouTube or on your favorite podcast feed. Just search Gambling Gauchos or the Republic of Football Texas feed. I don't understand a lot of the conversation around the Cowboys. You and I talk about it all the time. People want to fire the GM, Jerry. Do the Cowboys not have a top 5 roster in the NFL?
Yeah.
Do they not?
They do.
This was a great ad.
Yeah.
The offensive line is solid. I wouldn't have re-signed Tony Pollard, but they just franchise tagged him. Rico Dowdle was a pretty solid running back too. CeeDee Lamb was the best wide receiver in the NFL statistically.
Stat-wise, yeah.
Dak Prescott played like an MVP against, all the bad teams.
At times, yeah.
Most of the year.
Yeah.
Except for the 49ers game and the Packers game. After the bye, Dak Prescott really did play like an MVP. Except in big moments. And so,
story of his career in college and in the pros.
Yeah. And so
go back to the Egg Bowl in 2015 when he was a Heisman front runner. Choked.
You're at a loss now if you're a Cowboys fan. Because you also see the Detroit Lions, who you could always say, at least you're not the Lions, now winning their division, beating the Packers, should have beat you if Dan Campbell didn't go brain dead and try to go for 2 twice after the penalty. you're at a loss, okay? Now, people assuming Jerry Jones will fire Mike McCarthy need to remember Jason Garrett was the Dallas Cowboys head coach for a full decade before he got fired. Jerry Jones is not as reactionary as people think. Does he want to do the big splash? No. He doesn't, generally. When is the last time Jerry really made a big splash? They don't do big splashes in free agency. They had a quiet signing of Brandon Cooks. They don't do big splash trades generally. They did Amari Cooper. But do you really remember another big splash trade? Before that, I think it was Roy E. Williams, who sucked as a Cowboy.
Yeah, he's old.
He couldn't catch.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Lions.
Yeah.
Anyways, I have a lot of thoughts. We'll get to them as we go through here on the Dallas Cowboys. It's Overreaction Monday. You can overreact in the starting line, chat line. Jackson Moody already. Who's the front runner for Cowboys head coach? The popular bit online right now is Bill Belichick. That doesn't make sense to me. You're not getting Tom Brady. You're not getting the sharp head coach. You're getting the guy who put his son in charge of the defense and then took it away. You're getting the guy that put Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, as the offensive play caller just because he wanted him around again. You're getting the guy that rehired Joe Judge after an awful, awful appearance with the Giants. I mean, you're getting flamed out, bad decisions, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Bill Belichick. You're not getting
Jarrett Stidham.
You're not getting the sharp Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, find a place for him, Ty Law, Deion Branch, Richard, what was his name? The defensive lineman. You're not getting that.
Teddy Bruschi.
Bill Belichick, Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel. Now, Mike Vrabel's a name. If you gave me a Mike Vrabel, Cliff Kingsbury ticket to coach the Dallas Cowboys, I would be all in on that above Mike McCarthy.
But didn't Mike Vrabel's success, a lot of it in Tennessee, hinge on how good Derrick Henry was and how good their offensive line was? And their offensive line stunk this year. They were not good.
Yeah, but you also had just a competitive edge that I don't think you have with Mike McCarthy. I think Vrabel is a culture guy. I think he's more like Dan Campbell than people give him credit for. That's what I want. I want an edge for the Cowboys. The Cowboys have not had.
Why not just go get? If you want a Dan Campbell guy, I mean, it's not like the Cowboys can't just go poach whatever head coach they want in the NFL, right? But Dan Campbell would be a guy. If you want him, go get him.
You know,
if you're going to fire Mike McCarthy, like what's the
true? I don't know that you can in the NFL. I mean, would Dan Campbell want to leave the Lions?
To go to the Dallas Cowboys? I think so. Yeah.
Really?
The Dallas well, the thing is, too, would Dan Campbell get along with Jerry Jones? Would Mike Vrabel be able to get along with Jerry Jones? And going back to the Belichick thing, that wouldn't work out either because Bill Belichick wants control of the full roster and Jerry Jones ain't going to give that up. So Bill Belichick is not ever going to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, ever.
No, and I look, it seems dumb for me to say, no, I don't want Bill Belichick. He's won 7 Super Bowls. Of course, I would get along with it and see what happens. But
like you said, it's not the same Bill Belichick. It's like the White Sox hiring Tony La Russa again. It's not like it's going to take you to the World Series, right? Tony La Russa is 95 years old, it feels like.
Yeah.
He's been around, he's done that. He's not hungry anymore, right? Like Bill Belichick's at the end of his career. What would make him come to Dallas and think that he's going to win a Super Bowl right off the bat? Because you're right. Dak Prescott ain't the guy. As long as he's your quarterback, you ain't winning a Super Bowl. I've been saying this since you drafted Dak Prescott. I really have. Go back to the Rob Bro show in the early days. I've been saying this all the time. He can look really good at times. He can look like one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the NFL at times. But he can't win games like this. He never has and he never will until it's proven wrong. Like I said, he did the same thing at Mississippi State. He was a Heisman front runner in 2015, I believe it was. His last year at Mississippi State, or it was 2014, the year they're 11-0 going into the Egg Bowl, and then he throws like 4 picks against Ole Miss, who wasn't good that year, by the way. And Dan Mullen's team loses, and this is the other critique on Dan Mullen, is he can never win big games either. Didn't do it at Mississippi State, didn't do it at Florida. That's why he's sitting on an ESPN desk right now. But Dak Prescott just can't get it done. And when big moments arise, turnover Dak comes in and just starts throwing the ball to the other team more than he throws it to his own team. I mean, the commentators kept talking about getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. He's only got 3 targets, but he hasn't caught a pass yet. And then Dak's just trying to force it into CeeDee Lamb, and he throws a terrible interception.
Yeah.
And I don't care. In the other pick 6, I mean, I don't care that, pass interference could be called. It wasn't. It's still a bad throw. Still not an advised throw.
And a bad route.
Yeah, and a bad route too.
It didn't turn into a pick 6 because he was down, but.
Right. Yeah, he's down. But it just one of those things where if you don't throw that football, then none of that happens. If you make a better decision, none of that happens.
Yeah. Alan Corbin says, who's the Bruce Bochy of the NFL? Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick. Yeah, I mean, but he hadn't retired yet and been out for 2 years. But
yeah, but multiple Super Bowls, mutually parts ways at his previous job. Hadn't set out
the job that he had for forever. Yeah,
but I mean that makes sense. And again, if Mike McCarthy's fired, I again don't know if he has been or will be. But Bill Belichick will be linked to the job. Him and Jerry are friends. It makes sense.
And you have the Parcells connection with those two as well.
Yeah. And who was the last coach that Jerry gave some conditional control to? Was Bill Parcells.
Yeah, Bill Parcells.
Let me just list some other names, okay? Jim Harbaugh. That was also in the comments. What do you think about Jim Harbaugh as a Cowboys head coach?
I think he has the attitude, the character, the flair that you want if you're Jerry Jones in a guy that's completely different than Mike McCarthy, right? Like that, if you're going to fire Mike McCarthy, you can't just go out and get another Mike McCarthy guy, right? You have to go get a guy that's completely different. Jim Harbaugh's that dude. Can he withstand the heat that is being the Dallas Cowboys coach? Yeah, he can. He's been at Michigan. Michigan's one of those teams in the Big Ten and in college football, period, that if they're not good, if you lose one game, and if you lose that one game, and everybody knows what that one game is to Ohio State, nobody cares how good you are the rest of the season.
Yeah, he also
hit the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, true. And so, which is just a hair of a step down from where the Cowboys are, if not above the Cowboys at right now. The Cowboys are still the most, talked about and thought about pro football team, professional team in the whole entire world, probably. Other than maybe some of those soccer teams over there overseas, but in Europe, like they care more about that than they do.
Americans, Cowboys,
American
the Yankees,
football.
The Lakers.
Right.
Everybody's talking about those two teams. That's the joke.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, the Cowboys lost.
Those are the 3 big jobs.
And now you're turning on to your Yankees fandom. Look, Jim Harbaugh would be more exciting to me than Bill Belichick.
I agree.
Just because of age and longevity and what he can do. He's been to a Super Bowl, hasn't won one, but I think you have more energy in the fan base with Jim Harbaugh. What about, I don't know, I saw Kellen Moore being floated. Hell no. I see, Dan Campbell. I was all in on Dan Campbell last year. Hell no. He sabotaged this last game, in my opinion. Went all zone all of a sudden after playing man all year and getting after the passer in man. Just allowed Jordan Love to pick you apart in a ridiculous way.
I mean, you were saying Dan Quinn.
Right? Sold. Yeah, Dan Quinn. Defensive coordinator.
Yeah, you said Dan Campbell. I knew what you meant in Dan Quinn. But...
Oh, Dan Quinn, yeah.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn. He was not focused in the playoffs, it seemed.
No, I think he was focused on getting the Seattle Seahawks job, to be honest with you.
And I'll say this with Dan Quinn.
Or back to Atlanta.
He sucked in Atlanta. He went to one
He
Super
did.
Bowl, sold,
He was bad.
and then they went 7-9 twice. Like, do you want to do that with the Cowboys? This defense has not been great because of Dan Quinn. It's been great because of the players you had.
You have one of the best rosters on the defensive side than anybody in the NFL has. If you have Micah Parsons, you have a leg up. He's the best. I think he's top 3 best defenders in the NFL.
And I'll say this, roster construction has been pretty good, but they went the entire back half of the season without a middle linebacker. They were playing safeties at middle linebacker, and you were getting a run all over. And Dan Quinn continually got in light boxes, and people just ran all over you. So that was frustrating as well. Daniel says, Dak is everything Papal Paint Kirk Cousins says. That's tough to hear, but probably true.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins won a playoff game last year.
Yeah, make Matt Campbell say no, so did Dak. If Dallas does move on from Mike McCarthy, when is it time to burn it down, sell some pieces, rebuild with a different quarterback? Kirk Cousins did not win a playoff game. He got beat by the Giants.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He won the division the week before.
Yeah.
And then got beat by the Giants the next week.
Daniel Jones outplayed Kirk Cousins in the
yeah, my guy DJ.
If Dallas does move on from McCarthy, when is it time to burn it down? Again, this year is not a time to get rid of Dak unless you trade him. But I don't know what Dak's trade value is. There's a lot of dumb teams out there who will trade for a quarterback. But I don't know what Dak's trade value is with his contract. He's a $30 million, I think, base salary plus whatever incentives and a $60 million cap hit this year.
But what quarterback? So if you're going to trade for a quarterback, and if you're talking about trade, are you talking about trading for a first-round pick? Or are you talking about trading for another quarterback that's in the NFL? And what team wants Dak Prescott over their quarterback?
You're not trading quarterback for quarterback. You're just getting rid of Dak to go draft a guy, I guess.
So the obvious answer would be to draft to send him to the Chicago Bears. And who else do you send with him? I don't know who you have to send with Dak, but
Dak doesn't yield a 1-1.
I know, but send what else do the Bears need?
Draft picks.
Everything. Yeah, draft pick. Send him. Okay, so Dak goes with your first round pick. Send him your first round pick for next year, and then throw everything in on Caleb Williams or whichever quarterback in this draft you think is the best. I don't know that Caleb Williams is my favorite quarterback. And does he have the most upside? Yeah. Obviously, his talent is off the charts. But is he going to be a really good NFL quarterback? I don't know. Like the last guy we saw that has the kind of talent that Caleb Williams has, that had a lot of success, that has the same kind of, transcendent talent. And Patrick Mahomes is out of this conversation. He doesn't have the same kind of talent that Caleb Williams has. Caleb Williams runs a 40. Patrick doesn't.
Yeah, but Patrick
He's not that kind of quarterback.
Environment and got to sit a year. Williams,
he had a perfect setup.
If Dak leaves, Caleb Williams comes in to a tumultuous situation with a new coach.
Caleb Williams to me is the exact same, and I said this before we came on air, the exact same as Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield and those guys. He's going to come in.
Johnny Manziel,
he's so good in college. He's so athletic, but the game in the NFL is completely different. I mean, you see it all the time now. The game has changed so much as far as how fast defenders are. I mean, you got defensive linemen that are running 4.6 40s. That's insane. Guys that are 300, almost close to 300 pounds and 6'6", running a 4.6 40. It's just stupid. And guys like Caleb Williams, he's not tall. He does have a great arm. He's athletic, but it's not the same as college football where you're just going to get away from everybody that comes at you, right? Like that's not going to happen in the NFL. So I don't know that a quarterback like that is who you hang your hat on and who you try and ride into this future. It's not a quarterback like that. I think a pocket passer, a guy who can control a pocket, can throw on the run like Jordan Love did last night. I thought he was fantastic yesterday. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. A guy like him who's not a runner first, who is a pocket presence, does those things. Now, Caleb Williams, his footwork looks good in college. What's it going to look like when he's got bigger dudes, faster guys, NFL defenses, all those things around him? I don't know. That's the question is I don't know that you hang your hat on that guy.
Here's the deal with the conversation of Dak's not good enough to win a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Yeah. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. What was the guy's name that played for the Eagles and the
Nick Foles.
Garcia?
Nick
Jeff
Foles.
Garcia?
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
Jeff Garcia didn't win a Super Bowl.
He went to a Super Bowl, though.
When? With who?
Oh, maybe not. He was just took the Eagles to
Donovan McNabb went to the Super Bowl. Eagles.
Yeah, there you go. With Andy Reid.
Yeah. You can be a bad quarterback, but your system is so built on Dak and the offense being good that he does have to be a Superman. That's your system. That was Kellen Moore's system. If you have Kyle Shanahan's system, you don't rely on the quarterback. You can move the ball without the quarterback being Superman. But how Mike McCarthy operates, you had to have Superman to win a Super Bowl. That's why he won one with Aaron Rodgers and couldn't get back. And with Mike McCarthy's culture, one player has to be a Superman to get through, and Dak is not Superman. Dak can't will a team. Dak can operate a team. He could be a great bus driver, but you don't have that culture to go in and do that. So Dak can't win a Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy. If you money whipped Kyle Shanahan over, you could win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. But Mike McCarthy, I don't ever see him getting back to the promised land. And nobody wanted him when he was retired. So you went and got him when nobody else was chasing him. But you look at Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, and you look at these guys and say, hey, Jerry Jones, if you're truly what you think you are, a foot taller when sitting down because you're on your wallet, if you think you're that rich, go pay somebody $25 million a year to be your head coach. You talked about it with Dan Campbell. Go pay Kyle Shanahan. Go pay Kyle Shanahan $30 million to take over the Cowboys. Go pay Sean McVay $15, $20 million a year to be the head coach of the Cowboys. He's been to 2 Super Bowls with Jared Goff and Matt Stafford.
What about a guy like a Mike McDaniel in Miami? He's completely opposite of what you have right now.
Yeah, I think Dak's better than Tua.
I agree.
Tua throws like a 14-year-old. But I don't know that I want Mike McDaniel.
Think in this draft, to me, the quarterback that you would go after would be a guy like a Bo Nix.
I
think he would be better than
the NFL.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but it's Bo Nix, or I'm just talking about steady guys. Like Caleb Williams is kind of a toss-up for me. But yeah, go back to head coaches, guys like you just mentioned. Why wouldn't you throw money at Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan? What's the worst that can happen? They say no. So what?
Hell, Jim Harbaugh took Colin Kaepernick to the Super Bowl.
No kidding.
So I don't
and
buy.
His brother went with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that was the Super Bowl that year. Yeah. I don't buy into the Dak Prescott's not good enough to be in a Super Bowl. I think Mike McCarthy's not good enough to get Dak Prescott to a Super Bowl. And maybe Jerry Jones, the GM, isn't good enough because you still had holes on this roster. But the Cowboys have never gone all in on defense. I think you need to with your next head coach. I think you need to
Okay,
draft.
then go get D'Amico Ryans.
I think you need to draft a gosh darn safety, which you have just ignored for 2 decades. You've not had a great safety. You just draft corners, and Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore would be a really good 3-person pairing next year. But you're also playing with Jaron Curse and no names at safety. And then the rest of your safeties are playing linebacker because you refuse to sign a middle linebacker. Now, I think you've done well on the defensive line. I think you have a really good front. I think you need some linebackers, and you need a game changer at safety in the NFL, and they've just refused to do that. So I do think there are deficiencies on this Cowboys roster. I'm not saying Jerry Jones is the best GM in the league, but you have a winnable roster with the right head coach, and Mike McCarthy is not that guy. So I guess my final thought here on the Cowboys is I don't know who the next guy is, but I know the next guy is not Mike McCarthy. I think I would rather have Jim Harbaugh, Sean McVay, hell, Bill Belichick, anyone else besides Mike McCarthy. And
does it matter who the next guy is, though, as long as Dak Prescott's your quarterback, though?
That's what I'm
Does
saying.
that matter?
Yes. I think Dak needs a shakeup. I mean, he's had to live with Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy.
Those are two really similar guys.
Yeah. I think if Jim Harbaugh came in and ran Dak like he ran Colin Kaepernick, or even hell, JJ McCarthy at Michigan, and took the game out of his hands and just said, you don't have to make any plays. You just have to not make any dumbass plays. And do it that way. I think Dak Prescott gets better. His stats don't get better. But Dak is a game manager, and you try to make him more than that. You try to make him Patrick Mahomes, and he's not.
Yeah.
He would be an elite game manager. Put Dak Prescott in Kyle Shanahan's offense. You don't think he's better than Brock Purdy?
Yeah, but he doesn't have a guy like McCaffrey behind him. Tony Pollard's not that guy anymore.
Right, but if Kyle Shanahan was the head coach, you would put more effort into that. Mike McCarthy doesn't care about the run game.
True. Yeah, he completely just negates it at times.
So, and which is funny because that's why he wanted Kellen Moore gone, because they didn't run the ball.
And think about, Mike McCarthy, the reason he was successful in Green Bay for the times he was because he had one of the
Aaron Rodgers,
all-time great quarterbacks that's played in the NFL.
Yes.
And he could negate the run game because Aaron Rodgers controlled the game like a sharpshooter. Yeah. Controls a theater of war. It's, and Dak Prescott isn't that guy now. You can't just go and win a Super Bowl on the shoulders of Dak Prescott with a good defense, not a great defense, but a good defense. You're missing a few pieces, like you said, in the back end.
Yeah. Somebody asked about Vrabel. I like Vrabel. I think Vrabel would, implement a good culture. I think you have to get a good offensive system in with him, but I think he would focus on the defense. I think he would get a middle linebacker. I think he would try to improve the safety position. Fake Natalie Maines, who is an infamous Jerry Jones hater, says Purdy would run circles around Dak. Mm-hmm. If he's a Cowboys fan, I don't understand it because he hates the Dallas Cowboys. Fake Natalie Maines hates the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think he's a real fan. I think he's just a troll. He does it all the time. He's a longtime texter into the Rob Bro Show. He does it just to piss me off. Brock Purdy is not better than Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott has some strong failings in his game. I think Dak Prescott in Kyle Shanahan's offense is as good or better than Brock Purdy. You could give me that they're the same, but Purdy running circles around Dak is just, it's idiotic. It's not true. It's just not.
Purdy's a better quarterback because he's better coached.
He's not a better quarterback. He is better coached.
But I'm saying on the field, like in the playoffs next week, he's going to look better than Dak Prescott because he's better coached. He's better prepared. He's all of the things that Dak Prescott isn't as far as where he's been. Plus, Dak Prescott ain't playing with a chip on his shoulder. Dak Prescott was highly drafted. He's making money. Brock Purdy was the last guy.
Drafted in the 4th round.
Yeah, but still.
Not highly.
Brock Purdy was the last pick. That's a chip on your shoulder guy right there.
I will say, and we haven't got to Dak Prescott's comments yet. That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
You asked Dak. Dak is a square peg in a round hole. You're asking Dak to be this, you're asking to be Aaron Rodgers, and he's not. That's why he looks bad. If you ask Dak to be Brock Purdy, he would be Brock Purdy better than Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy. That's all I'm saying. He's playing out of position. Cost less too, yes. And I am a strong proponent. If I was an NFL GM, I wouldn't have re-signed Russell Wilson with the Seahawks. I wouldn't have given him a second contract. The Seahawks were built so well because of the rookie contract. I don't know if I would have given Dak a second contract.
I said you shouldn't.
I would be like the Pack. Well, we also were appalled that they gave Zeke a second contract. But we're not the GMs of the Cowboys. In today's game, I think if you have a quarterback, you probably should stick with him, but it's harder to build a team. Just frankly, it's harder to build a team when you're paying a quarterback $40 million a year. And Brock Purdy, they paid Daniel Jones. Why? The Giants paid Daniel Jones. Why? Like Lamar Jackson, you're not just going out and drafting another Lamar Jackson.
No. Lamar Jackson is the closest that we're going to get to Mike Vick in a very long time.
Patrick Mahomes, you're not just going out and drafting another Patrick Mahomes.
No.
But guys like
those are generational talents.
Guys like Russell Wilson that you're just asking to be, the game manager. You can go find
a few throws. Yeah.
And if you get a system in here that just relies on a game manager, yeah. Saban can run the offense. Harbaugh can coach the D. I think you got him backwards there. I think Harbaugh would coach the offense. Saban would run the defense. And Bill Belichick is a GM. Oh, Jerry would still see. Yeah, Jerry would still. I should have read the whole thing.
Jerry's always going to get in the way. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it for all the Cowboy fans in the world to hear. First of all, I'm not a Cowboys fan.
How did he get?
Until the day Jerry Jones dies, they will not win another Super Bowl.
That logic is stupid. Stephen Jones is worse. Stephen Jones, you're saying the Cowboys will never win another Super Bowl.
But I think Stephen Jones will, after his dad dies, will relinquish some of that power. I think he will.
What power do you think Jerry Jones has right now besides ownership stuff?
He tells Stephen Jones what to do.
What to do in what?
Daddy tells son what to do, because if he doesn't, then he ain't getting the team after he gone. That's what he controls Stephen Jones with. I'm telling you, it's how money works, Rob. Trust funds, wills.
But how did Jerry get in the way this year? Mike McCarthy ran the team. Mike McCarthy.
That's what I mean. Is
Mike McCarthy system.
Mike McCarthy ain't the guy. Jerry Jones let him do those things.
But who is the guy this year? Kyle Shanahan, Dan Campbell, Andy Reid. There's 5 head coaches that are the guy. That means there's 27 other coaches who have bad teams that have bad coaches. There's 27 other owners who are getting in the way.
I mean, Rob McNair let DeMeco Ryans do what he wanted to with his roster.
Great head coach.
Look at him. Yeah. I go just stay in state and go down the street and get DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah.
I know it's only his first year, but what he did with the Houston Texans can't be understated. And he's got one of the best young quarterbacks in the league.
Again, rookie contract, you can do a lot more with the team.
God, look at that. Think about if the Cowboys would have just drafted up to get CJ Stroud, man. Think how good the Dallas Cowboys could be right now.
And then get right back in there and get Will what's his name? But again, system-wise, I just hate Mike McCarthy's system. And again, if you want to say Jerry Jones, okay. If you hate Jerry Jones so much he can't talk to the media, I don't know. It does not bother me that he talks to the media.
Jerry's gonna Jerry. That's once you take that job, you know for a fact that's what's gonna happen. But like you said, I think a guy like a Kyle Shanahan or those types of guys, sort of a little bit like Jimmy Johnson was whenever he took over the Dallas Cowboys job. It was kind of in this situation where it'd been a drought for a while. They hadn't been great. Jimmy Johnson takes it over. They have the quarterback in place, and him and Jerry butted heads because Jimmy did it his way and Jerry didn't like it. But he ended up liking it at times because they won a lot of football games together. And guess who they had at quarterback? The Hall of Famer, Troy Aikman. And
there was no salary cap.
Right, and there's no salary cap. That helped too. But because you had the guys like the Emmitt Smith, you had really good players and really good talent to go along with one of the best head coaches that we've seen in the NFL, especially with the Dallas Cowboys and the talent he was able to bring in.
And then Barry Switzer won another one.
Yeah, and Barry Switzer wasn't that good of a coach, to be honest.
Awful. Awful head coach.
And Troy Aikman hated him with the Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, it's one of those deals where I think it goes down to quarterback play. Yeah, it goes to the head coach. Who's your head coach? But quarterback play and defense are where you're going to win the NFL. You're going to win a championship in the NFL. That's what it comes down to.
And you gave up 48.
And you can't to the Green Bay Packers, who haven't been that great. Now, Jordan Love had been good the remainder of the season.
Yeah, but they weren't scoring 48 on anyone else.
When they get into the playoffs, be that 7th seed. No, they were not.
All right, we need to move on. My blood pressure's up. I can't talk about the Cowboys anymore. The Arizona Wildcats have lost their head coach. Jed Fish goes to Washington.
Shocker.
A 3-minute team meeting. Players are pissed, apparently, according to Jason Shear, a beat writer for 24/7 Sports there with the Arizona Wildcats. Listen, Arizona is not a great job. Let me tell you why. They did not even try to pay Jed Fish. They didn't try to up his contract. Arizona is...
They can't. They don't have the money.
It's as a school poor. Yeah. They can't up anybody. So they're going to have to get an up-and-comer or a G5 head coach. They're not going to be able to poach anybody from the Power 5. And then they're going to lose him if he's successful. And if not, he's going to be Kevin Sumlin or some retread that's coming back down. Rich Rod. That's going to be a retread. Now, Arizona coming to the Big 12, I think you can strike with some Texas ties here and keep your recruiting up. But what does it mean for Arizona to lose Jed Fish like this? And who are some candidates that you've seen connected to this Arizona job?
Well, not only lose Jed Fish, but you're probably going to lose your starting quarterback too. Like, he's going in the portal and he's going to end up at Washington. That's just how it's going to work out. Unless they hire their offensive coordinator and offensive lines coach as their head coach. But this job, to me, I mean, the obvious answers of, the guys like at UNLV, Barry Odom is a guy that comes to mind. For me, and this is just from lists that I've seen, G.J. Kinney is a guy that has been put on lists. What he did at UIW after Eric Morris left was fantastic. He's 1 year at Texas State. Texas State, let's put it this way. Dennis Franchione, #Cowboys, was the head coach at Texas State. He never took Texas State to a bowl game. Texas State was in a worse conference then than they are now. The Sun Belt's actually pretty tough. And Texas State went and they go to a bowl game in G.J. Kinney's first year after he was able to go in the transfer portal and get a quarterback that can do something. And his quarterback from this year is in the transfer portal as well from Texas State. If you were to give a guy like a G.J. Kinney that job, I think it would be a great hire for a young head football coach like a G.J. Kinney to get that job. Is he ready for a Power 5 after being in the Group of 5 for 1 year and being in the Sun Belt? I don't know. I don't know what that job, what he would look like at Arizona. I think G.J. Kinney could keep Noah Fafita on campus because he's such a good quarterbacks coach, for one. He's coached a lot of good talent. G.J. Kinney has all the sauce and everything you would need with the NFL, those guys, because he was an NFL guy for a while and he coached under some NFL guys, and was also a backup quarterback in the NFL for a little bit.
Would he
for
leave
me, would he leave where?
the state of Texas? Because like Jeff Traylor,
yeah.
Traylor's waiting on Baylor. He was
Right.
trying to get Houston. He wanted A&M. If Sark ever leaves, he's going to take Texas, whatever it is. But Sark, he's not going to leave for, an Iowa opening. Now, Arizona can still recruit Texas, so I do think it makes a little sense. But
Right.
you also have to be in California. You have to be in Arizona. You have to be in Colorado. You have to get guys from that area as well. Can G.J. Kinney, can Jeff Traylor, can those guys be outside of Texas and still successful? I think it makes a lot of sense to go the California route. San Jose State coach Brent Brennan, Arizona grad assistant, he's been listed. Washington State coach Jake Dickert. I would leave Washington State immediately. They're going downhill. UNLV coach Odom has been listed. And then I think the most obvious choice just to keep Fafita would be to just upgrade, promote
hire Brennan Carroll,
the offensive coordinator, Brennan Carroll, who, according to The Athletic, is the 44-year-old son of Pete Carroll.
Yes, he is the son of Pete Carroll,
and has been with Fish the entire time there. I think you have to strike there. I think it would be really dumb to lose the Carroll lineage. And now Pete's free, so he could pull a Lon Kruger and just go help his son.
Yeah, and because of with what Washington has in the offensive coordinator position, I don't know that Jed Fish is going to look for another offensive coordinator. I think he hires Ryan Grubb in the same spot as he was with, unless we see him go to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. I think Ryan Grubb's going to be the offensive coordinator in Washington still. Yeah. So that means Brennan Carroll doesn't have a job with Jed Fish anymore, and that's the only reason I think Brennan Carroll would stay at Arizona is if he were the head coach. Now, if he's not given the head coaching job, I think that he might end up on the staff at Washington, maybe as a co-offensive coordinator with Ryan Grubb and the offensive line coach, because he's a really talented offensive line coach. Arizona's offensive line was piss poor the first couple of years. They added some guys to the transfer portal. They were really good this year, and I think they returned like 3 or 4 of their 5 starters on the offensive line for next year. And obviously with the quarterback that you have in Noah Fafita, I think he would stay if a guy like Brennan Carroll were to get the job. I think if you want to keep the main, parts of your guys there, and I think they said on both sides of the ball, there's like 14 or 15 starters coming back.
Yeah, Arizona was trying to be top Big 12 team.
And you're talking about a 10-win team from this year. So Arizona is talked about as a preseason favorite, as a very, very preseason favorite to be a team that could win the Big 12 next year because of how good they were this year. Obviously, without Jed Fish, things change. But if you keep the same guys in-house and obviously just promote guys from within that you have, I don't know that much changes. Because Brennan Carroll, like you said, has worked with Jed Fish. I don't know that he tweaks anything from what Jed Fish put in and has done, and he's the same mind as where Jed Fish has been. So I think that's where you continue to keep the course there. Is he ready to be a head coach? He's been groomed was one of the best college football coaches that we saw in the early 2000s. Obviously, he did it in the early days of when NIL wasn't legal.
Now that doesn't always translate.
No, it doesn't always translate. Don't
But
get me wrong. But I
he
think
has
that
the
right now
pedigree
you've
there.
seen Brennan Carroll has the ability to be a good college football coach. He's been a great offensive line coach. I think he has the wherewithal and the knowledge, and he hasn't coached under his dad or has the tutelage of his. I don't know if he has coached under his dad that much, but obviously growing up in it, he knows football. Coaching under Jed Fish, I think, only makes you better with everywhere that Jed Fish has been. I think if I were the Arizona athletics director, and here's the thing too, Brennan Carroll ain't going to break the bank either of what you're going to have to pay a head coach. Like, he's a first-time head coach, cheap option there, right? And if it doesn't work out and things go wrong, then in 2 years you find somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, because right now,
go ahead.
Well, right now I think that the options are limited because you're so late in this thing. The coaching carousel has already kind of figured out all these routes for guys to go, because at the end of the day, you're talking about if Michigan State wouldn't have hired Smith to be their head coach, then I think he ends up at Washington, and Jed Fish is still at Arizona, and Oregon State's looking for a new head coach, right? So, if you're Coach Smith, you're probably thinking, damn, I wish I would have waited because now I would have had a better job at UW instead of Michigan State. But I think Washington got the best guy for the job. Obviously, I think Jed Fish is one of the top newer head football coaches in the NCAA. I think Alabama got the right guy for who they needed that was available in Kalen DeBoer. And you want to talk about meetings? Supposedly, Kalen DeBoer went and had a 1 minute or 2 minute meeting with the Washington football team. Never once said he was leaving. He just told them how proud he was of their season, all these things. Players were on Facebook Live talking about it. I saw it on Twitter. And then he just bounced.
I did see everyone was mad at Jed Fish yesterday, so maybe they were one and the same.
Yeah, probably.
A couple of questions to clean up on the starting line chat line. Were the rumors true that Alabama reached out to Joey? That was an obviously fake tweet. I don't know how many people saw the actual tweet or just heard the rumor after the tweet. That was from one of my mutuals making fun of Texas. And if you looked at the tweet for any kind of time before you moved on and just believed it and spread the rumor, at the very top, you can see them making fun of Texas before they launch into the quote about Joey McGuire turning down. It was all about Sark turning down Alabama and not even interviewing. It was a joke. Will Arizona keep the Arizona defensive end? In today's world, I believe the transfer portal is closed for every team except for Arizona right now. Arizona
and
Washington
and Alabama.
In Alabama, kids can enter the portal for 30 days, 31 days after a coaching change. So, I don't know who will leave. I'm not in line with what Arizona is doing, but they need to make a head coaching decision quickly because all of those guys can. Now, if I was an Arizona student athlete and I was in this point of the transfer portal, I would not make any hasty decisions. I would see who the next head coach is. I probably would wait till through spring football and then enter in the next portal round. Because even if you enter right now, like school has started.
Yeah.
You're at Arizona. Unless you make a quick decision, you could probably get somewhere by spring because you can sign up for classes a couple of weeks into the semester. But that would just be a rush job when you could wait and see who Arizona hires. Now, if they flub it and you hate the guy they hire, you can move on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too and I really think that guys take quarterback and your top receivers. Those are the guys that are obviously probably going to follow their quarterback in Fafita if he leaves and goes with Jed Fish to Washington. Like, those are the obvious answers. But your guy that was a starter on the offensive line, if his offensive line coach leaves, where does Brennan Carroll end up? He'll go in the transfer portal, maybe follow him somewhere or find somewhere else to go, depending on who you hire. So, and that's another reason. I don't know that Brett Brennan is the guy. Brent Brennan, excuse me, because we talked about this on Friday, is your recruiting base has now gone from the Pac-12 recruiting base, which is California, the West Coast, right? California, Nevada, obviously in Arizona, which is a good recruiting bed for high school talent. And those places has now moved because you no longer play any more football games in the state of California unless you're scheduling Cal or Stanford in a non-conference, right? So Brent Brennan is not really recruited anywhere but California. Like, he has those ties. He doesn't have any ties to anywhere in the Big 12. The Big 12 is a good conference for teams like Arizona to be in, and Utah knows this. Kyle Whittingham's done a great job in the state of Texas of recruiting here. If you're Arizona, now the state of Texas is open to you for recruiting. The state of California somewhat closes because of the fact that you no longer play in front of those kids' hometowns. Like, you're no longer going to UCLA, Cal, or USC or Stanford. You're going to play at Texas Tech, TCU, Houston. I mean, you're talking about a bigger recruiting base now than really what you had in the state of California too, in the state of Texas. So I think that's where GJ Kinney looks really good as opposed to a guy like a Brent Brennan. Barry Odom looks good because he's been able to recruit. He did that at Missouri. He did that in his stops before there. So, and at UNLV, he recruited the state of Texas this past couple times. And Barry Odom was really good this year at UNLV, which that is a job that nobody's been good at for a while in football. That's a tough job. Now, obviously, you get to play in one of the coolest stadiums, but it's not really your stadium in college football. But still, I think Barry Odom, to me, the top three would be, obviously, I think your best choice is going with Brennan Carroll with your offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, promoting him to be the head coach because you don't have a ton of money to pay guys. And GJ Kinney just signed, a $35 million deal with Texas State. Texas State probably has more money to spend on their head coach than Arizona does.
Yeah, Arizona,
which is a funny thing to say.
Arizona can't do any buyouts.
No.
They just need somebody who is available. I think, again, we keep talking around it. I just think they're going to promote within.
Yeah.
Which, if they keep their entire staff intact and they all stay at Arizona and nobody follows Jedd Fisch, what does that say about Jedd Fisch? But we talked about his resume. He never stays anywhere more than 2 years. He was at Arizona for three. Carroll was in Seattle for, I think, 6 years, 2015 through 2020.
Yeah, he did coach under his dad there. Yeah, that's right.
And then I think he was the assistant offensive line coach. I looked at it earlier when you said that. The assistant offensive line coach, and then was the run game coordinator in 2020. And then left with Jedd Fisch. So his college experience has been 3 years.
Yeah, limited.
And then before 2015, which I think, the 2015 and previous college football experience is just not the same as today's experience.
No, it's a moot point at this point.
It honestly makes more sense than ever for an NFL guy to come to the college game and coach because recruiting is so different.
It's free agency.
You can do GJ Kinney and just get 53 transfer portals. You can do the Deion Sanders and just get 5 high school kids a year. That's why when people say Cliff will never come back to the college game, why? It's the NFL now. He can go just get a bunch of free agents every year and never care about high school recruiting. Or he can hire a GM like Joey did and let them do all the recruiting and legwork and find all the players. When Cliff was at Texas Tech, they had one guy in the recruiting office. One. Now you have, 20 at Texas Tech. I mean, the recruiting office is just, it's a different beast now.
The recruiting office has its own wing in the new place. That's how big your recruiting office is.
And when Cliff was here, they had a closet. Maybe.
Yeah.
They probably
if that, yeah.
With the grad assistants.
Yeah.
In the bullpen.
If you let them share an office with the grad assistants.
They might have worked out of their car that they paid for themselves with no budget.
Yeah, there was no car coach, yeah.
Anyways. Yeah, I'm not going to get distracted by that.
Justin Wilcox is another name that I just saw Cal get brought up by fake Natalie Maines. Justin Wilcox is another guy. He's at Cal. Cal has nowhere to go. He's another guy that makes a little bit of sense. He's been good at Cal. Cal's a tough job. because of the recruiting stipulations they have. Arizona has no recruiting stipulations. You pretty much can get into Arizona if you apply. Yeah, academically. I mean, so he would be a guy that I think could work out well. He's recruited the state of Texas a little bit too. I think a guy like a Justin Wilcox would fit at Arizona. I think he's a guy that they'll probably interview. But other than that, I think you're right. Brennan Carroll's where he's going to end up. And here's the thing too, is these guys on this Arizona staff, I don't know how many of these guys at Washington Kalen DeBoer is going to take with him to Alabama. I think Alabama, he's going to keep a lot of the guys on staff at Alabama. Like I said, Ryan Grubb may not even leave Washington to go to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. So, and if that happens, then he's going to keep – Jedd Fisch is just going to keep that staff. It's not like Jedd Fisch is like, loyal to everybody that was on his staff at Arizona and is going to fire everybody at Washington. Jedd Fisch doesn't care. He just wants to be a head coach. Right. In the NFL, that's what happens too. And so I think you could see a lot of the guys – Arizona saying, hey, we want to keep a lot of these guys here because of the continuity that we want to keep with the roster. So if you're the head coach, you're not going to bring in a ton of your guys. So I think hiring from within makes the most sense. But, guys like a GJ Kinney or a Justin Wilcox makes sense too. So does Barry Odom. So those are the four names I would put on a list. And I think Brennan Carroll is number one on that list. But if you don't think he's ready to be a head coach, then you find somebody that says, but you tell them that Brennan Carroll stays because we want to keep the continuity in the roster. I think that's what's going to happen. That's what it might look like. And it'll be interesting to see who Arizona hires, but it needs to be in the next couple of days for you to make this hire. It's got to be quick because we're in January. This isn't normal season for coaching carousel hires to be going on. That's already passed, especially in the day and age of the transfer portal and, the early recruiting windows and all this stuff.
By the way, Caleb Williams officially in the NFL draft. That happened. Yeah, about 30
surprise.
It is a little bit of a surprise. I thought he might go late in the transfer portal if somewhere was open.
Well, and he's already told the Chicago Bears that they're trading the number one pick. He won't play for them. So,
yeah. So, no, I don't know what's happening. Let's see. Let's move on to college basketball. Lots of stuff happened this past week. Especially Coach Gass going to 3-0 in Big 12 play. That has netted them a top 25 ranking at 25.
Dang it.
Today's AP poll. Don't rank them.
Don't rank them.
Can, but now they're ranked, and they play Houston on Wednesday. Any broad thought? Yeah. Well, I don't know. Houston's 1-2 in the Big 12.
Yeah, true.
Any broad thoughts on that Kansas State game? I gave a lot of mine last night, so I'll let you give your thoughts here on what that meant and how the toughest team won.
Yeah, my thoughts are short and sweet about what we said on Friday is the toughest team wins in a game like that, right? It's going to be a game of runs. Kansas State goes on a 20-0 run to end the first half. You go down by 11 at the end of the first half. Everything looks terrible. You play the second half. You can't hit the broadside of a barn from three. What'd you shoot at 5 of 30 or something like that from three? Kansas State drops 2 times more threes than you do. And you find a way to win. You just found a way to win. And if I go back to this, you out-rebound. Kansas State out-rebounded you. But at the very end of the day, I thought Warren Washington played well enough when he needed to.
He was really good in the opening of the second half.
Yeah, he almost had that double-double, 11 points, 8 rebounds. I said he's got to be able to get 8 rebounds. You keep one of their big guys off the glass. McNair Jr. had a good game, 9 rebounds, 9 points. But other than that, and then Perry was good in the first half. I think he scored most of his points in the first half. The second half, you kind of figured out how to shut him down, and I think that's a lot credit to Coach McCaslin and his staff that know the kid, that know Tyler Perry well. You were able to kind of shut him off in the second half, which helped you, claw back in that thing. You're down 7 with 2 minutes, it felt like, left, and the game was probably over. But then you get a big 3-pointer from Darian Williams, the putback from Darian Williams, which then makes it a 2-point game with the putback and the foul, which was massive. I mean, a big time play right there. Got the crowd back into it. And then you found ways to get stops and you hit big shots down the stretch and you're able to pull it out, man. And it doesn't matter to me what a win looks like in this conference. I could care less what it looked like. If you end up winning by a point in the Big 12, a win is a win is a win, and it's a good win every single day, right? There's some bad losses in the Big 12, but there's no bad wins in this conference. Like, I don't care what it looked like. It could have been 25-24, and you look like absolute crap the whole game. If you won 25-24, don't
You're
care.
moving on. You're moving
don't
on.
Care. You're 3-0.
Yeah.
You're one of 2 teams left in this conference that is undefeated, right? You're at the top of this conference. Nobody, and I mean nobody, not even the most diehard Texas Tech fan, thought you would be 3-0 in this conference and at the top of the Big 12 conference after your first 3 conference games. Nobody, right? Like, honestly, if anybody tells you they thought Texas Tech would be 3-0, they're probably a 6-year-old child that doesn't understand the way the world works yet. So that to me is a testament in its own to Grant McCasland and this coaching staff for what they've done in that locker room, for how bad at points you looked in the non-conference, especially against some of the better teams that you've played, like the Villanovas and the Butlers, who you played in your non-conference. You're looking like a Big 12 basketball team right now. And that means that you're looking like a tournament basketball team in March. And that is exactly where you want to be. 3-0 in the Big 12. That would have been a tough loss at home, right? You got to control your home floor. You've got to win on your home floor in this conference. If you want to go to the big dance, if you want to play in March and April, you've got to be able to win at home in this conference. You've got to be able to at least win your 9 games at home and then steal 1 on the road or 2 if you can't win all those 9 at home. You stole 1 on the road. Now you've got to be able to go steal another one or 2, because I don't know that you're just going to sweep everybody at home, but man, you've been pretty solid so far.
That's rare to sweep the home. You've done it before.
Because you've got Kansas. You've done it before. You've got Kansas at home too.
Sure.
Kansas played pissed off on Saturday.
Yes,
and rightfully so. Against Oklahoma, they finally figured it out and wore the Sooners down. But at Houston, at the Fertitta Center, is going to be tough. It really is. And Kelvin Sampson's team, like you said, they got their backs up against the wall here in the Big 12 early too. Yeah. So you're talking about a team that's up here in the Big 12 that's riding high, feeling pretty good about themselves. Don't be that team. Play like the team that has a chip on their shoulder. Yeah. I don't care that you're ranked number 25 in the country, because you lose 2 games this week. You lose 2 games this week, you ain't going to be ranked in the country anymore. Sorry.
Yeah,
and then you're talking about a 3-2 team. It can go really downhill really fast in this conference.
You played a ranked Texas to start Big 12 play. I don't believe they're ranked anymore.
No, they're not ranked.
You played a bad Oklahoma State team, and you played an unranked Kansas State team, beat it by 1. So
mediocre Kansas State
team.
For
what it's worth, unranked. Your next 4, number 5 Houston, number 20 BYU, number 15 Oklahoma, number 19 TCU. So a little bit of a gauntlet. And then you have Cincinnati, Baylor, UCF, Kansas. Another tough 4-game stretch with 2 home games that I think are definitely winnable in Cincinnati and UCF. And then you go Kansas, Iowa State, TCU again, this time at home, ranked currently. And Iowa State has a guy who is going to be a problem in the Big 12, Momcilovic, or however you say his name. I probably mispronounced it, but that dude, that guy hits daggers.
He can go. Yeah, he can shoot it. He's open once he crosses half court, Rob.
Yeah.
And
he's got a Dirk-esque post game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's going to be a very, very fun player to watch in the Big 12. But you look at it in the way January, just look at the end of January. You said it, at Houston, you get BYU at home, at Oklahoma and at TCU. You could very easily be 4-3 or 3-4 by the end of January, and all of this, feeling good and feeling high. We know how Tech fans are. The sky is going to be falling, could be falling by the end of the month. So it's not like it gets easy in this conference. You probably had your easiest stretch in the conference the last couple games to start conference playoff, and now you get one of the toughest stretches in the Big 12 in the end of January. There's not a unranked matchup in the month of January left. Every single team you play to finish January, the rest of the 4 games in this month are ranked in the top 25. I don't think BYU should be ranked in the top 25 the way they lost to Cincinnati, but it is what it is. Yeah. They were ranked number 12 at the time. You get them at home, which is nice, but those 3 road games, Rob, that's going to be tough to win on in any of those road games, especially at Houston and at TCU. Just going to be tough, and you never play well at Oklahoma hardly.
And what's funny, you go back to 2019, 4-0, 0-4 was your 8-game start in the Big 12. So it's a wild ride. You won the Big 12 season, with an 0-4 stretch. Of course, you won out after that, which I also don't see happening. But you limited the damage in a 20-0 run. You won that game. They had a 20-0 run, and you won against Kansas State. After a loss, and you haven't lost yet, but after a loss, can you limit damage and get back on your feet quickly? That's what we need to see from Coach Gass. I hope we don't see it. I hope they go 18-0. Ryan in the comment section, the starting line chat line says 18-0 is all I see. Well, yeah, good. Let's see it together. But other than that, I think that Coach Gass so far has been a great fit, and this team plays efficiently on offense, which we've not seen in a long time here at Texas Tech, and also plays tough defense. So you're seemingly getting the best of both worlds, and I can't wait till Wednesday. We'll talk about that game more on Wednesday. I don't believe there was any other things we were going to talk about. Did we cover it all?
Yeah, Cowboys, we got it all.
Cowboys, Arizona coaching carousel, and the basketball world.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Any other things you want to discuss before we sign off?
No. I wonder how snowy it's going to be in Buffalo today. They start in an hour?
Yeah, I'm ready for that game. I'm glad.
I hope Baker gets his doors blown off.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't. Die, Eagles, die.
You don't like the Eagles.
I don't like the Eagles. Especially since the Cowboys lost. I don't want to see the Eagles.
I don't have disdain for the Eagles like Cowboys fans do. So
I
have disdain for Baker Mayfield though. So I hope he gets his stuff canned.
I've always had a soft spot for Baker. I like Baker.
Yeah, which bothers me.
Well, you do things that bother me. So
that's a fact.
We're even
ever since 7th grade, Robbie.
All right. We'll end it there.
Yeah.
You gonna say it?
Peace.
All right.